crucifixion has been used for over 3,000 years, but it's the crucifixion of Jesus that is known worldwide. The exact details of his execution are elusive, driving scientists and historians to try and unravel the mysteries surrounding death on the cross. Jesus is beaten, mocked, and tormented. But how is he attached to the wooden cross? Historians and scientists have long debated this question. Centuries of art depict Jesus with nails penetrating through his palms.
There's been a lot of speculation on whether or not Jesus is nailed through the palm or through the wrist. Some people have said that he couldn't have been nailed through the palm because the weight of his body would rip him off of the cross.
Dr. Mark Benecke is a forensic biologist in Cologne, Germany. By profession, he decodes unsolved mysteries. He's determined to find out how Jesus is attached to the cross. Dr. Benecke is following in the footsteps of the French doctor Pierre Barbet. These rare photos show Barbet's 1930s experiments in which he crucifies human corpses.
One of the good things he did was to use real corpses for these crucifixion experiments, because the biomechanics of a crucifixion is quite interesting. It all depends very much on the angle in which you secure the limbs and all the body parts, because this will determine how much physical stress is going to be on either on the bones or on the connective tissue.
Barbet's experiments include driving nails through amputated hands. He determines that a hand can support about 88 pounds of pulling force before the nail tears out. More recent research shows that weight is even less.
The maximum stress that you can have on the tissue and on the bones is maybe between 40 and 60 pounds, probably. This may cause the tissue already to rip or the bones to break, so that the whole system of crucifixion won't work anymore.
So if a nailed hand can only support about 40 to 60 pounds, can nails alone be used to secure a person to a cross? Dr. Benecke has devised a system to measure exactly how body weight is distributed to the hands during crucifixion. He creates a steel structure rigged with chains to mimic the arms. A small frame is loaded with weights to represent the body. 2 scales measure the pull of the body on each hand. A red zone on each scale represents the weight range in which the nail will tear through the hand. He begins adding the 22-pound weights.
There we go, now we're in the red zone already.
At just 44 pounds, the needle is already in the danger zone, the point at which nails will rip through the flesh.
Now that's a lot of weight now on. This is 50 kilograms now, so beyond 100 pounds. We are getting closer to the weight of a real person.
You might expect the weight to be evenly split between the 2 scales, with each supporting only half the load. But when the pull is exerted at an angle, that's clearly not the case. Surprisingly, 50 kilograms of weight puts a 50-kilogram load on each scale. This experiment shows that in a crucifixion, with the arms in the outstretched position, each hand bears the entire weight of the body. The weight of a 100-pound man will exert well over the 30 pounds required to tear the hand off the nail.
It is indeed kind of counterintuitive that if you stretch out your hands, in the same amount of weight, so to speak, is distributed to every hand. So if I weigh, let's say, I don't know, 120 pounds, but then I will 120 pounds here on that hand and 120 pounds on that hand, and that's more than enough to rip my tissue apart.
The skeletal structure of the hand clearly shows why nails alone cannot support the body.
When you crucify a person, then in many pictures you see that the nail goes through the digits somewhere here in the area of the hand. And you know, the connective tissue here is not too strong. Either the bones break or the connective tissue will just rip and tear, and then the person will fall down.
However, the Romans have other options for nailing the hands to the cross, like placing the nails just above the wrist, between the long bones of the arms.
That's maybe the easiest on the one hand to do, and secondly, it's gonna probably be the most stable position because the bone is more stable.
A third possibility is a nail through the wrist bones, in particular, through an opening between the bones called the space of distot.
If the nails were placed instead into the wrist, into the small bones of the wrist or just proximal to those bones, where there are tense fibrous sheaths around these bones, they would have held.
The pain will be excruciating. The large median nerve, which provides sensation to the forearm and hand, passes right through this area of the wrist.
The median nerve, whether it's lacerated or whether it's just continually impinged upon as a nail pushes against it, it's going to send bolts of lightning out into the hand, and this is going to be like burning, severe pain.
Is nailing through the wrist consistent with the biblical evidence of Jesus' crucifixion? The Gospels imply that Jesus is nailed through the hand, but in ancient Greek, the language in which the Bible is originally written, the word for hand describes both the palm and the wrist. This bony area is where most experts believe the Romans drove the iron nail into Jesus' hand. Many experts also believe that the Romans would not rely on nails alone to secure their victims to the wooden patibulum.
I'm quite certain that the Romans made sure Jesus and other victims would stay up there, and they would have tied their arms to the patibulum. That is to say, the weight of the body is supported by ropes and not by the nails.
So ropes and nails are probably used to attach Jesus to the patibulum. The Romans lift the beam and attach it to the top of the stipe. All of Jesus' body weight hangs from his wrists as the soldiers prepare to nail his feet.
The ultimate outcome in terms of how long the person would survive probably was dependent in some significant way on how the feet were attached.
Most likely, his feet are nailed in the stacked position that's commonly depicted. This position encourages a quicker death.
So if you place the soles of the feet flat against the upright, the individual cannot lock their knees. They have to support their weight with the thigh muscles or hang completely from the nails.
The position makes it far more challenging for the victim to breathe, and it is excruciatingly painful.
And there are a series of nerves that pass through the feet in that area that would cause tremendous stimulation of those sensory nerves and just exquisite pain from that constant irritation. And every time the victim would try to rise to exhale, that would stimulate those nerves even further.
Although a small footrest is often shown attached to the cross beneath Jesus' feet, this is probably an artist's creation. Historians say there is no credible evidence such a device is ever used.
Almost all of the earliest crosses that we see in Christian art were done by artists who had never witnessed a crucifixion.
Jesus hangs crucified on the cross. Near him are two other condemned men. They're called thieves, but are probably rebels, like Jesus. He struggles to breathe with his arms stretched out above his head. It's a vicious cycle of pain and suffering that will ultimately end in death.
A person nailed to the cross is going to be desperately searching for a comfortable position. He may relieve the pain on the medial nerves when he lifts himself up, but he creates muscle pain. When he drops himself down, he relieves the muscles, but he finds that the pain has recurred in the median nerves and the shoulders.
Every time he or she would lift themselves up on the cross, that would drag these torn, shredded tissues of the back across the rough wood of the cross, reopening the wounds, re-stimulating the nerves in the back, causing further bleeding, and again, causing tremendous pain.
There is no comfortable position on the cross. There is no position where he is even relatively pain-free.
Jesus hangs in agony. The end is near. He's beaten, dehydrated, exhausted. He's suffering from external trauma and internal injuries, all life-threatening conditions. But what will ultimately kill Jesus? Today, science may have the technology to decode the ancient evidence and discover the exact cause of Jesus' death on the cross.